A lot of noise tonight in Lincoln Park that wasn't construction related. That honking and cheering, part of a protest outside the Lincoln Park flats. Many residents of that apartment complex were recently told they'd have to move to another floor or move out altogether as the second floor is being converted into a hotel, something they and city leaders are not happy about. Northern News Now's Cara Kopp heard from them this afternoon.
Duluth needs affordable housing, not hotels.
That's what dozens of signs held by protesters said outside of the Lincoln Park flats Monday, slamming the recent announcement made by P&R Property.
The P&R property developers who made this building, they took like $2.3 some million in city funds for affordable housing. And now they want to make a bunch of profit on it, and I just think that's not okay.
Property owners planning to turn the entire second floor into a 24-unit boutique hotel. P&R Properties saying in a statement last week, the pandemic challenged them, and this change offers them some financial flexibility.
It was super frustrating, and it feels illegal when places like this, P&R Properties, uses the limited amount of money that is dedicated to this important issue for something that's going to be hugely profitable for them.
But now the city council is stepping in after hearing some complaints.
First off is like we're upset about what's happening to the Lincoln Park Flats tenants, and we certainly don't want to see this happen again.
Now looking to take action where they can this Thursday.
We did identify that there is some action that councilors can take to ensure that our development agreements are still moving forward the housing that we know is a priority.
Frustrations of residents being heard loud and clear by city leaders.
Yeah, there's just a lot of shady stuff around this kind of development.
In Duluth, Cara Kopp, Northern News Now.
We did reach out to P&R Properties and they declined our request for an interview. But last week they released a statement saying in part that during pandemic challenges, they were one of only a few developers still providing work that supported local families.